Horror and video games have an interesting connection. By directly partaking in scarier moments, they have a different feel from classics on the silver screen. As hardware has progressed, the potential for scaring the player has only heightened. Some of the biggest franchises in the industry are based within the survival horror genre, but other titles deliver their scares in a more subtle manner. To mark Halloween 2021, here are my picks of gaming moments that scared me, both past and present. Number 5. Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage. We start, simply enough, with the very first game I played. Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage, better known as Gateway to Glimmer in Europe, got me into the PS1. When you got into gaming at a younger age, there's always that one level from a kid-friendly title that leaves you a bit anxious. The bloodthirsty piano from Super Mario 64, or the zombies that latch onto Link in Ocarina of Time come to mind. In Ripto's Rage, you journey across a wide variety of levels. While many of these were vibrant and colourful, you had others that were more contained. It was Aquaria Towers that creeped me out on the first playthrough. There's a section towards the end of the level where you bribe moneybags to take a submarine through a tunnel infested with metal sharks. Out of curiosity, I tried swimming through and was met with a quick death. Seeing the purple dragon chomped down in one bite by an enemy twice its size was pretty sinister. Even when the game gives you a power-up to take revenge on the machines, I was always nervous about entering that tunnel. A pretty basic scare, but we're just getting started. Number 4. Half-Life 2 Episode 2. In 2007, the Orange Box arrived on PS3, and based on the great reviews at the time, I grabbed a copy. This was my entry point for Valve's exceptional gaming catalogue, though unfortunately I made the very bad decision to play Episode 2 first. Initially, the game was enjoyable. Heading to the White Forest base and the first encounter with the Combine Hunter was menacing, but nothing I couldn't handle. Once Alex is injured and you head into the mines, however, things took a frightening turn. From the get-go, you're all alone in these dark passages and must make your way to an underground outpost. Early in the level, you have to head through a flooded area. It seemed simple enough, so I pushed on, not taking note of what was on the ceiling. So imagine my confusion as I was slowly pulled upwards, a creepy tugging sound playing in the background. I look up and bam! A flash of red and a crunching sound as the hideous mouth of a barnacle filled the screen. At that moment, 13-year-old Rob got one of the biggest shocks of his life. I hurriedly whipped out the crowbar and chopped Gordon free from the tongue's grasp. I was able to deal with these creatures easily from then on, but was always wary of their presence going forward. Number 3. Dino Crisis. This side project from Shinji Mikami was the first game I played that took on a more mature perspective. A friend had lent it to me at the time and I got stuck in. While I was a big fan of dinosaurs back then, I wasn't prepared for the game's creepy atmosphere. It wasn't the creatures themselves, but rather the anticipation of when they would show up. The foreboding atmosphere and music were key components in heightening the fear factor. These techniques made Capcom a master of the horror genre in the 90s. The first encounter with the rampaging reptiles wasn't too bad, but when I headed inside the complex, the tension continued to build. Early on, I was heading out of the office facility, about to turn the corner to the exit, when a raptor crashed through the window and pinned Regina to the floor. Playing on easy mode, I was able to take it down easily, but the psychological damage was done. At that point, I put the game down, not wanting to play any further. I still have Dino Crisis in my collection to this day. Maybe I should get around to finishing it. Number 2. Subnautica. Next, we come to an indie title many are familiar with. Subnautica is one of the best examples of the survival gameplay loop in recent years. It also maintains a high degree of scares without needing an adult age rating. For starters, you're all alone on this strange backwater planet. It's up to you to scavenge what you can to survive and unravel the mysteries below the surface. To do so, you have to keep going deeper, and that's where the real terror lies. The shallows in the game's opening moments make for a good training ground, but I'd exhausted most of my gathered materials. Initially, the wreck of the Aurora looked promising for scavenging, so I grabbed some supplies, built a radiation suit, and headed over there. I think you all know what happened next. As I approached the crashed mothership, a subtle growl came from nearby. Out of the gloom emerged a Reaper Leviathan, easily the most frightening monster in the entire game. I immediately turned tail and swam back to the escape pod, just barely escaping its tentacles with its roars sounding off behind me. I was constantly on edge with further trips, being very careful not to run into the beasts. That's the beauty of Subnautica in a nutshell. You're compelled to press on while still being afraid of what you'll encounter next. Number 1. Peter Jackson's King Kong. Wrapping up, we come to one of the best movie licensed games ever produced. Peter Jackson's King Kong from 2005 remains one of my all-time favourite films. Watching it in New York for Christmas that year was a fitting attraction. The production was pretty scary in itself, with 2 sequences involving the natives and giant insects standing out in particular. Soon after watching, I unwrapped the PS2 game a few days later as an early present. Having already played the demo back home, I was very excited to check out the full release. I popped it in, and the game made an immediate impression with its gloomy atmosphere. Taking on giant crabs in the early going was fairly straightforward. Just keep your distance and lay on the ammunition. Then along came Necropolis. After seeing your fellow sailors fail to get ashore, the game pushes you into tight enclosed spaces, a great setup for scares. You make your way through the graves of the natives, only to be ambushed by the ugliest enemies in the game.
Everyone, hide! Hang in there!
Giant millipedes, each of them over 2 meters long, start crawling out of the walls to attack. Playing in first person is bad enough, but the unnerving sounds they make before lunging straight at you scared me to no end. Further on, another one leaps out to devour Carl, the music screeching in your ears as he screams for help.
And... Ow!
It got so bad that I refused to play any levels with the millipedes. Instead, I entered some cheat codes and got straight into the Kong levels. Eventually, I did beat the game fully, but to this day, those millipedes still give me the shivers. Those were the scariest moments in my gaming catalogue, but how about yourselves? Stick some of your personal frights in the comments below. You can follow my blog and channel at the links in the description.